Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. So viewer question today, as we age as tennis players, should we stick with the stuff that's going to make us the way we are? Or should we take advantage of technology, bigger heads, more stable shoes, and things that are out there to help us improve? Or are we going to still be pig-headed? Stay tuned. All right, as part of our coffee club sit-down segment, sponsor of this video is Alvin Tong. Oh, Alvin is one of our Buy Me a Coffee club sponsors, in which he hooks me up with one dark roast, piping hot, per month, and continues to do so. So thank you so much, Alvin, for your continued support. If you want to be part of my coffee club or want to sponsor a coffee club segment, the link is buymeacoffee.com/tennis spin. If you want to just hook up the channel, super thanks is the way. Link is below. Thank you guys so much. All right. Thank you, Alvin, for always hooking me up. All right. So I got to get to my thing here. Here we go. Okay. All right. So here is what spurred on this subject. Okay. It's from Michael from Nova Scotia. Michael writes, I enjoy your YouTube videos a lot and find them very helpful. I would like to make a suggestion to you regarding a topic, which I don't think is covered enough by your channel and others. That is senior tennis, both men and women. There are a lot of players in both the US and Canada who fall into the category of senior tennis. I don't think senior tennis gear is covered enough, from rackets to comfortable shoes. For example, the #1 player in the 65 plus category from the US is Mark Vines from Naples, Florida. What is his racket? What kind of strings and tension? What is he doing right? What are the other top senior players using for rackets, etc.? Please give my suggestions some thought. Best regards, Michael. Well, I gave it a suggestion. I ran it by Coach Rob, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right? So after reading that, I went and kind of researched Mr. Vines from Naples, Florida, and I found out that he actually uses something like that, a hyper hammer. And I believe he uses...
This one's a hyper sledgehammer.
Oh, yeah, hyper sledgehammer. It's
I
this
think
shape.
That's the 2.0.
This is a 2.0. I think he is on a 2.0 from what I've researched. It could be a 2.8, something, but it's like this. It's in the big racket category that looks like a snowshoe. Nova Scotia snowshoe. And I believe he uses multis. It was a little hard to see what he uses because it's not much is written about him. And he is a teaching pro from what I've seen. He has his own channel that does a little bit of instruction. He uses, excuse me, he wears Asics Gel Resolution 9s. Not sure about his shorts and his shirt though, okay? But that's what he uses in terms of racket and shoes, and I believe the strings. He may use a hybrid of a poly and a multi. I'm not 100% sure of that. Now, as we get older, I just remember one quote from Pete Sampras when he started using a 95 square inch head versus his 85, he said, I should have done this at the latter part of my career because I got so much help, so many easy points from doing that. But I mean, in the heat of the moment, you know, when you're out there battling and fighting father time, it's like, I don't want to change because there's too much of an adjustment. I mean, we also saw that with Fed. It took him, I feel like, a whole year to switch from that thin 90 Pro Staff to that 97. We just don't want to, I think, first of all, Coach Rob, we don't want to admit that we're getting a little old and need a little help.
That could be a little bit of it also, but for those guys, they're playing and competing on a weekly basis. There's not much tennis off season, as we know. So it's hard to say, let's go change mid-season. You're going to have to wait till you hit that window, you know, between Thanksgiving and, say, Christmas, that you're going to have, you know, end of November, December. You have a little break in the schedule to, you know, start play testing new rackets and see if you can find something that you think will benefit you and that you can ride throughout the next year.
Yeah, it took Fed a year.
Right.
So
I remember, what was it? Oh my God, I can't remember his name at the moment. But he came out, it was in the Australian Open. He had just switched to a new racket. He lost first round, and he went to the side, and he took every racket out of his bag and blew them all up and just crushed them. And I'm sure the name will come to us at some point. But
there's a few people that did that.
And they were sort of like even talking about, like, hey, you just made the switch. Like, I guess it didn't work. But
well, that's the thing, though. It's like you have to.
And like they're going back to it. Was it the rackets problem, or was
right?
I mean,
exactly. It's like you chose to make the change, and it didn't work out for you at that day.
And it could have been sponsorship. It could have been endorsement. There could be a lot of reasons, you know, why you're making the switch.
Right. But
and or looking for more help.
But as we get older, I mean, there has to be a reason why, you know, Mr. Vines here uses this. Like this racket isn't made anymore. So I'm sure he's sourcing it from secondary markets, or he might have stockpiled a bunch of them. And probably going to use it the rest of his tennis career.
Well, and also, it's probably someone like him, he probably has his playing rackets and then he has his teaching racket, right? Like when I was playing, I had 3 or 4 rackets that I only used when I was playing and competing, and then I had a couple others that were older that I just used for teaching.
Were they the same rackets?
Same racket, but,
okay.
But they were, you know, they weren't going to be in the match play mode versus just teaching. I didn't want to wear out my match rackets for just, you know, teaching purposes.
Right. So I know of 2 cases that's happened recently where a person that uses like 100 square inch racket, and he's literally top 50 in the nation of the 65 plus, just like Mr. Vines. And he goes to New York to compete. He goes to all these national tournaments to compete. And he was on like a Pure Drive. And he finally asked me, he's like, can I get a Yonex 115, the Astral? And I'm like, really? Right? And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to make the move because I need the help now. And he's got perfect strokes. Like, don't get me wrong. He's got perfect strokes, but he feels like he can shorten the points a little bit more, get a little easier power, and, you know, help his endurance a little bit more. And like like a lot of the people that are in that category, they're very, very stubborn. They don't like to get out of their comfort zone and admit that they're a little on the older side and need a little help from the racket. So I was very surprised at this move.
Did he change tension or strings, or does he tinker with his Pure Drive and then just was like,
no,
okay, I've
consistent, just like, this is what I do, and, you know, I'm not changing. That's why I was so shocked when he changed. And then when he did, and he went to New York and competed, he actually did well. He probably made it to like the 3rd or the 4th round, which was great for him. And then he came back and looked me right in the eyes like, should have done this a long time ago. So, I mean, let's look at this though. I mean, this thing is 115 at least, right? It's thick, it's light, there's weight in the head. It definitely helps with easy power, shortening up your strokes. It's definitely there to help. I mean, I would actually like to reference what you usually bring up in that Wilson scale, where they had those 3 pictures of people. If this is your stroke, this is your racket, and this one was the shortest stroke.
Shorter backswing, short follow through.
Right.
You needed a stiffer racket.
Correct.
If you had a more medium length stroke, then your rackets were in this category.
Right.
Then you had a full stroke, then you had a racket because that fit that model. So
Correct.
you could generate your own power. You didn't need a stiff racket.
Right.
You didn't have a full stroke. You needed help. Here's your...
Exactly.
Right.
So these makes total sense. Your stroke is probably a little shorter. You need help from the racket.
Or you may have a long fluid stroke, but you just can't generate the same racket head speed
Right.
that you maybe once did.
Right. Good point.
So-
Good point. Because it says ultimate power right there. Ultimate power, lightness, and strength. It says right there.
And super oversized.
Yes. So.
I think other thing that I know I've learned, and a lot just from doing this with you over the years, is you come out with the new rackets. So, hey, try this. And like, okay, cool. And maybe we hit with it for 10 minutes, but all of a sudden in those 10 minutes, I can kind of feel the pros or the cons out of that racket. So that if I hadn't been trying different rackets, I'd still be using my old, 6-1 Pro Staff and wouldn't have changed. But if you keep kind of trying the latest and greatest, doesn't mean you have to buy it, but if you try it, you can see, oh wait, I really do see a benefit. Maybe it's worth making the switch.
Totally.
Or, nope, I still,
Yeah. No, I feel like the seniors out there, I mean, most seniors who, I want to say start at a later age, totally understand this because they kind of start here. Maybe not like this, but in this realm. Whereas if you started as like a teenager or younger, like you get a little more pig-headed. You get a little more stuck in your ways because you don't want to categorize yourself as that person. Right?
Right. Well, or you started out in a mid-size, under 100, you were probably, if you were playing as a young high school kid of our age, you're using a 95, 90, 95, and that was your mid-size, and the 110 was your oversize, and you're like, oh, the only people that use the 110s are those old people. I'm staying in the 95 range.
Exactly.
But now you're like, hey, there's a real benefit to using that. You just have to understand that, Father Time's undefeated.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to see what else is out there. Doesn't mean you have to buy it. You don't have to be one of those ones where every year you're buying the latest and greatest.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is I feel like every company is maybe only making one of these rackets or this kind of category of a racket. So I think it's shrinking.
Yeah, sadly.
And like for those people who are seniors or super seniors, like if you're not using something that's bigger, I feel like you're at a disadvantage. And that's not my words. That's people that are playing's words. Because they're hitting easier balls and faster balls with a lot less effort. Whereas if you've got that smaller head, you're using a lot of energy and you're exerting a lot of your stamina to stay out there. So if you're one of those people, I mean, I'd say try it. Try it before you, nix it. And then, the shoes, Mr. Vines plays with Gel Resolution 9, which is a very stable, supportive shoe. It's pretty hard to roll an ankle on that. So I would probably suggest something like that, perhaps a Barricade, something that's got like a firmer sole that doesn't allow you, too much movement. So I definitely would not recommend like a Solution Speed 3 or anything that's light, because there's just not enough support in those types of shoes. So I know he teaches, so he's on his feet a lot. So he needs that, cushion support and kind of all around, keeping you up, without. And then so the reason, you and I talked about this offline before we started. The reason why the companies aren't making as many of these is because, that segment of player is kind of shrinking. But
sadly,
yes. But the other segment that's not this, which is another totally different category, is growing, and that's pickleball. So pickleball is growing, whereas this segment is unfortunately shrinking.
Well, and/or companies are putting their resources into that sport, and taking it away from knowing that this population is going in that direction.
Right. Which is sad. I mean, I feel like I hear a lot of people do both for a while, and then they kind of ease over to just pickleball because I think it's just easier. And I get it. It's more social too. But if you're, older, still competitive in the tennis thing, we just basically want to say, try something that's going to be easier for you to play with, because we don't want to necessarily see you just go into the pickleball realm. Coach Rob, thank you so much for joining me for this segment. What do you think, guys? Are you willing to change? Would you suggest other people to change? Is that something that you would even consider, getting a bigger racket? Let us know in the comments. Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.